What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gen Z Money Podcast, where we turn financial peace to your reality. I'm your host, James Bowman. And of course, I brought back the amazing guest, Joey Snyder, to help me tag team this whole crypto NFT episode and really get the information that we have out to you guys to help you guys make an educated decision. What's up, Joey, man? How you doing?
Hey, James, thanks for having me back.
Of course, man. Of course. I love our conversations, man. They always go well. And I know you're gonna bring so much value to this whole crypto NFT digital real estate thing because this is a topic that a lot of people want to get into, right? Because it's so new and there's so many different moving parts. And that's why I wanted to make an episode directly pinpointing these topics. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. This is such a huge conversation piece I have with clients, and honestly, people in general love to talk about crypto or NFTs, and there's such a huge craze over it nowadays that it's almost hard to avoid, right? So I certainly think it's a good thing that we're getting some information out there so people can at least understand what they're getting into.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, especially if you're going to like a financial advisor or financial coach, it's kind of weird if they don't mention it. Like it's so big that it's like if you go to somewhere and they don't even mention it, whether they endorse it or they don't, then you're like, oh, I don't even know if this guy knows what he's talking about because he didn't even mention what about crypto or anything. So, and I mean, I always mention it, but I mentioned I have my own feelings towards it and I don't suggest it as an investment, but I still bring it up because it's becoming such a big um part of our life. So
Yep.
let's just go ahead and let's open it up, Joey. What is your personal opinion on crypto, NFTs, digital real estate, and things along those lines?
So, of course, full disclosure, I personally don't own any ownership in any of them. I will be the first to admit that I probably will be the last man to die on that hill of not buying crypto or NFTs just because to me, I think right now it's something that's very unregulated and I know what works. And I'd much rather, if I'm going to have extra money, I'd rather put it to the investment market versus this. But that in mind, I like to, when I talk about this with clients, a lot of people, I always use the FOMO expression, right? I think that's how most people view it is they don't want to be somebody who talked about it or knew that the craze was going on and then be sitting on the sideline whenever it takes off or someone cashes a lot of money. But I think that's like it's like that in all things in the world. We kind of we don't want to miss out. Well, unfortunately, we also don't really hear about all the horror stories of people losing a ton of money or losing a bunch of assets or holding NFTs that no longer have value because someone else doesn't value it, right? So my personal opinion is it's certainly something that if you are going to get into it, one, please do as much research as possible. I mean, just like any investment, before you invest, you need to understand the nuances. I always like to say answer three things. How liquid is the asset? How is that taxed? And essentially, how does the growth work, right? So we want to understand some of those basic nuances before investing. And then when you consider that, what else am I doing? I would literally say if you aren't maxing out your retirement plan through work, you're not maxing out a Roth IRA, you're not putting money into a non-qualified plan, your first investment should not be crypto. It should not be NFTs. I think if that is your first investment, you are in a scenario where you're looking and hoping for a miracle and you're hoping to turn a little bit of money into a lot very quickly. All while we still don't truly understand the tax nuances of crypto and NFTs. Right now, it's kind of long-term dividend tax. I actually just read an article about cryptocurrency actually settling a pretty large settlement because they're also dabbling into other avenues like banking, for example. So now there's cryptocurrencies out there that are also giving essentially crypto bank accounts. So people can park their money where they're going to get a higher rate of return. That's not guaranteed, guys. So don't think that just because it's in a bank, but now it's crypto and they're going to promise you 6 to 8%, that's a guaranteed 6 to 8%. No. Crypto is still not FDIC insured. It's not insured against loss. So we have to understand that anytime you're purchasing those, you are going to be subject to loss. And once it's gone, right? Unlike even, for example, the stock market, if you invest in mutual funds, the 1,000 companies that are in the mutual funds have to all literally be non-existent for you to lose your money. That the percentage of that happening is essentially zero. Or if you buy an NFT, that is one asset, and that certainly could go to zero, and then you're holding the bag. A valueless bag, I should say.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fear of missing out thing, because I think that is probably one of the biggest driving forces, because we saw Bitcoin when it was $1 and then it was $50,000. And so you see that and you're like, oh, when that happens again, I don't want to miss out. So I want to throw all my money in there. And let's make something very, very, very clear, guys. Me and Joy, we realize there are actually people making money buying crypto and selling crypto, buying NFTs and selling NFTs. So that is out of the question whether you can make money doing it. The question we are posing is, how likely are you to make money doing it? And how likely are you to make large sums of money doing it? I like to think of it as a speculation instead of an investment, right? It's the same thing. Yes. Because we can pose this on this type of transaction on many different things. For example, if you're a great poker player, right? Poker is all about speculation. Can people make a whole lot of money playing poker? Absolutely. There be people who've become millionaires just by being very good at poker, understanding the thing. And so it's the same thing with crypto. You can study it and become a great crypto investor, but the odds of you being the best of the best and making millions over long term, we don't see that as likely. It's the exception to the rule, and it's not the majority. Yes. So, Joey, what do you think is causing the crazy frenzy for NFTs and crypto? You talked a little bit about the FOMO, and you also talked about the get rich quick. Do you think there's anything else that's causing like a big frenzy?
People love what's new. I think that's the other thing too, is, I mean, technology has really changed the game in all things finance. I mean, even my personal practice now, instead of giving somebody a 100-page application, you could do it all online with a couple of clicks of your phone. So the technology has brought this ability to the average person to be able to literally purchase a digital crypto or a currency, right? Same thing with the NFTs. You're basically able to essentially own a form of artwork or rights to some sort of original content that, back in the early 1900s, if you wanted to own artwork, you had to go to an art show and you had to buy a huge painting that you're going to put up on your wall, right? Where in the NFT space, you could own that digitally. And especially with technology now, people have embraced that so much that we're in a scenario where people would almost prefer to have it digitally. I mean, you need to think about, for example, just our simple photos on our phone. I've easily got 10,000 plus phones, and most of them are just on my or pictures on my phone. They're all mostly of my kids, right? But now you can own a lot of these assets without having to physically have the piece of asset, without having to physically keep track of it or put it in a storage space or so forth. So people have embraced that. So I think that also the idea of something being new, and of course the technology that we have, has allowed that to be a awesome but a very accessible investment option, right? People always like what's sexy. I know I mentioned this in previous times, and definitely with clients, is we're always about what is sexy versus what we know works. So I've always mentioned the fitness industry, right? We're always, for example, things like CrossFit became a huge fad because it was just a different style of working out. Then there's a lot of people who are blowing out their back because they were doing pull-ups incorrectly, right? So it's not that the new fad, it might not necessarily be a fad. I think crypto and NFTs might be here to stay. I just don't know if it's something that we can consistently, especially look back now. There's not enough years of data to look back and see how that performs. So right now, you also, because it's so new, people are thinking, well, if I don't get in now, I don't want to regret it later, right? So I think just the idea of technology and it being something new is probably the only other factor that I think really is driving that. And it's funny because people usually have fear of the unknown, but in this scenario, they're willing to put their money into something that they literally don't know how it's going to work. So I'd say don't. I think that's a pretty rough way to go about investing your funds and your financial future.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. If you don't I always tell people like don't invest in something you don't understand, right? You might not be able to understand the inner workings of an iPhone, right? But that doesn't mean you can't invest in Apple because you are a consumer of the iPhone. You understand how their technology works, how it benefits your life. So you have some knowledge, even if it's not in depth. It's the same thing about crypto. It's in NFTs. It's like if you don't even understand what they are and you're just scrolling through TikTok and you see someone talking about the next top 5 coins and you know absolutely nothing about them, the odds are you probably shouldn't be investing. And I like to think that this frenzy, it happens to come, towards the end of the longest bull market we've ever had in history. And so there's so much wealth being created. People are
Yeah.
looking for more places to store that wealth. The
Yeah.
problem is when you're storing the wealth in something that only has value to the extent that someone else will pay for it. That's the only value it has. During a recession, that is going to be the first thing to crash, right? Because when money gets tight and everybody's, losing their jobs and we're in the middle of a recession, the last thing people are going to want to do is buy some digital artwork or buy some digital currency. They're still going to go buy groceries. So you might want to keep your Kroger stock or, and so that's my only issue with this whole frenzy going on. It's like, yes, in good times, it works. But we also have to, when we're thinking about investing, we have to think of the bad times because you know it and I know it. They are coming, whether they are tomorrow, whether they're next year, whether they're in 5 years, the bad times are coming. And I personally don't want to store my value into something that has it's valueless unless someone else will pay for it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, especially you mentioned I always joke during COVID. I can't tell you how many times we go up and down our neighborhood and we'd see people doing house projects, and so forth and so forth. Everyone had money to spend because they really weren't spending it on anything, right? So eventually you're sitting online, you're thinking, well, hey, if I could turn this money into a quick $100 or whatever it may be, it's certainly worth the risk. Um, that's certainly going to change when the market starts to slow down like it already is. But I think the other thing too is we're in the world of instant gratification, right? So unfortunately, most people are making these purchases, or I shouldn't say investments, these purchases, because I don't even feel right calling it an investment. Or making these sort of purchases, whether it's crypto or NFT, with the idea of an instant gratification, a quick payday. It absolutely, people aren't looking at it from a long-term perspective. And I think that might be the one thing that you and I are struggling with when we talk about this is I'm trying to figure out how can I essentially extrapolate this out for the next 20, 30 years, and what should I expect from that? We have no data to show us what that is going to be, right? And I'm all for a buy and hold strategy, but I think I would get very antsy if I was buying and holding on to an NFT. I think the first opportunity I had to sell it, I would, just because I don't know. You can't really think of it in a long-term perspective. I mean, we'll get to this later on the NFT part, but the instant gratification in the world we live in, I think brings a lot of that of a very, very short-term perspective. And I think that's the opposite of how most people should view their finances.
I love it, man. I love it. So let's dive a little bit deep. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into each crypto NFTs. And we're going to talk a little bit about digital real estate at the end. But I want to dive into crypto specifically, first of all. So after doing a little bit of research, I found out there's over 10,000 different cryptocurrencies as of November 2021. Joey, how is someone supposed to know out of those 10,000 which one is going to go to the moon?
I think their guess is as good as ours, right? Because that's exactly the issue that I have with. Also, we don't even know of those 10,000, how many more possibly were created that just don't exist anymore, right? That's another stat that we probably want to try to identify is how many additionally were out there that no longer exist. Is that 10,000 involve those that are basically trading at zero? Or of those 10,000, are those just ones that are actively that you can invest in, right? I mean, I can't. I'm blanking on the Netflix show. It was the Korean Netflix show that came out. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about. I wish I could. I'm blanking on the name of it. But anyways, they created a crypto after the show, and basically the crypto no longer exists, and the people who created it walked away with a cool couple million and just kind of ran off with your money. So that's the other thing too, is a world like crypto where it's unregulated, it's a digital currency. Let's be honest, a lot of people use this as the way to essentially exchange money illegally. You're getting into something like that, and you're hoping on just a win that just the market itself is strong enough to support the trading of that crypto, and other ones don't take over, or ones essentially become valueless, right? And you lose your money. I think that's a lot to really rely on for you to consistently stick with it. And that's why you see such high fluctuations, because there's large purchases of one crypto versus another. And that's really, and I know just the time and the power it takes just to trade crypto. I read a stat that it said to buy one Bitcoin is the power of essentially a full day's power of someone's home or their household, in terms of electricity that you have to use in order to trade crypto. So just that alone is kind of wild, just to think about the amount of electricity you have to use just to trade it. Nonetheless, if you're someone who's trying to actively do it on an ongoing basis, and that's kind of, you're dedicating that time. That's the other thing. I don't think majority of people aren't dedicating their entire day work towards mining crypto or trading it. And I think that's also where you can get in trouble. We even talk about, for example, my world of finance. There's a lot of people who make money literally just trading all day. That's a very small amount of people who trade on their own, and that's how they derive an income. Those are the kind of people that are talking about the success stories. The people like you and I who go buy a couple $100 worth, maybe, those are not the success stories that we're hearing about, because they're typically not turning into hundreds of thousands of net profit. All while we have no idea. I see, and I always use a joke of the IRS. You put the and IRS together, it spells theirs. We're still waiting for the IRS to come down and say, hey, we're tired of watching all these people make money on this digital currency. They could certainly come in and aggressively tax it. They're already starting to tax a long-term dividend tax if you as an investment for now, but I don't see that could possibly change. So tax regulations could also bring this whole thing down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I I 100% agree. I mean, and oftentimes if you are day trading, sometimes they'll even tax it at your ordinary income tax. So, and if you're successful at it, that's a 40%. So that's something, or 37%. So that's something you guys got to take into account when you're looking at these cryptos. So one of the big issues I have with crypto, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin, all of these different things, is that they have this stigma that no more can ever be created. And for example, I was reading an article on Bitcoin that the more it's mined, the less is mined. So it's like, it's what I got from the article is, let's say 99% of the Bitcoin was already mined. You get down to the last 1%. Once you get to 1% of that 1%, the mining slows down. Once you get to 1% of that 1%, the mining slows down, and it continuously goes on. And I think it was projected to be all gone by like 2040, whatever. And it was a fascinating concept to me. But it got me thinking, it's like, if these are actual currencies, right? Like, really though, what is stopping more from being created? And I did a little bit of research on it, and it's like, it's in the code that no more can be created. But it just doesn't make sense to me, because the code is created. The code can be altered. The code that says no more can be created was created. So it's like, there's no currency in the world that you cannot create more of. And because that's a driving force of its value in the fact that it cannot be created, it diminishes the value to me. It's because, I don't know, it baffles me that someone can create something and say we cannot create more. Like, it's just,
well, let's play devil's advocate. Like, what kind of reason can you even think of that beside a code that would result in there being no crypto again ever created? I mean, what do you think could be ways that people could validate or say, hey, this will never happen Because obviously there's going to be people out there who will hear this say, oh, well, that's right, James, that's never going to happen. I mean, how, right? I mean, what is going to stop that?
I truly don't know, man. Like there is nothing, like there is absolutely nothing in my head. And it's very simple logic to me, right? People are gonna try and argue this and say it's in the code, it's in the code. Listen, the code was created by someone or something.
Mhm.
Therefore, there's absolutely no way that you can tell me that more cannot be created. Now, I will give it to them. Do they have incentives to create more? As long as the value continues to climb, I don't think they have an incentive to make more. But
Yep.
once the value starts to drop, they might be incentivized to make more because more can be mined. The sales, it creates value. And of course, the value will decline as more is created, but it would still give them incentive to make more. So the
Well, let's not
fact that
forget we're in an open economic market. You just said there's over 10,000 cryptos. Okay. Well, now cryptos, this particular, say, for example, Bitcoin, no more Bitcoin exists. It's all purchased. It's at a value of X. Well, if I know that my growth capacity is now pretty limited, why wouldn't consumers just go to another crypto? Right. So I guess the conversation could be, well, there could never be more created because there'll be so many other cryptos. They'll just go create another cryptocurrency to compete with that existing one, right? So the fact that there's so many out there, I understand that in itself could probably take a long time to get to a scenario where all of them are essentially 100% owned. But then it also means that that's constantly fluctuating, so there almost never is really an end game, and it's going to constantly go up and down. You're never going to have a asset that's going to hold a predictable value when you're constantly having new cryptocurrencies being introduced to the market, and a scenario where people obviously don't want to be holding the value of a Bitcoin at its maximum value, right? So you almost kind of have an idea of what those maximum values are going to be on a crypto that's basically fully purchased. So I guess that could be its argument as to why there'll never be more created, is because there'll just be more cryptocurrencies to purchase. That's the only thing I could think of.
You know
And
what?
then
But
that makes me even more nervous.
but that it's fascinating you say that, because it brings up this topic that I have with clients all the time. Is like, okay, would you rather buy in $1,000 of an index fund that's worth $150, or $1,000 worth of the same index fund that's worth $50? And it's like it's kind of like the 1,000 pounds of feather, 1,000 pound of brick scenario. It's like you're still holding $1,000 worth of whatever it is. So if you're holding $1,000 in Bitcoin, what's the difference than holding $1,000 in Ethereum? The only difference is the fluctuations. You know what I mean? So it's still the same $1,000. So if there is no more Bitcoin and the price is continually going up, you could just go and buy another form of the currency because the value of the $1,000 is still the same. You just might have more of it.
Yes.
So I pulled up a couple articles that I want to talk about when it comes to crypto, which is super duper important personally because I see it happening on a daily basis, right? It's something called pump and dump. And I'm going to give you guys a quick definition. A pump and dump scheme is a type of security fraud that involves the artificial inflation of the price of a security through false, misleading, or exaggerated statements, regardless of the security's price. What that means, guys, is people are overvaluing, they're advertising something, an object that, and they're advertising it as being worth more than it actually is. With that being said, there have been lawsuits coming to celebrities such as Kim Kardashian, Floyd Mayweather, Soulja Boy, Lil Yachty, Jake Paul, where they are advertising these certain cryptos. And of course, they own the crypto. They buy up the crypto. They advertise it. They get their followers to invest in it. They jack up the price, and then they sell it off. And they gain their profit while their fans and their following who did end up losing money due to the artificial inflation. Essentially, they inflated the price past what it was actually worth. that leads me to the question, Joey. In any other situation, like if a celebrity were to go on and talk about, besides like Elon Musk talk about Tesla, because obviously it's his company or whatever, but let's say Kim K went on talking about, I don't know, let's just say what stock? Let's just say Razor, the scooter stock. Oh, it's so underpriced. Everybody needs to go buy it, blah, 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 blah. And it happens in that space.
Yep.
Isn't that something that you can be prosecuted on, like these lawsuits?
Exactly. In the world of finance, yes. In the world of crypto, no. And that's been my biggest issue since day one is the lack of regulation. At some point, you're exactly right. Those lawsuits are starting to come out, but there's so much unregulation. There's not really any rules, right? So yes, is it messed up? Did Floyd Mayweather probably make millions while his investors lost 100? They probably lost hundreds, right? Yeah. Is there anything you can do about it? No. Is he a licensed investment advisor or silver? No. So they're probably right to get to made whole again. It's pretty minimal at this point. You're kind of just suing and hoping that he's nice and feels sorry to the fact that he screwed you guys over, right? But having personal feelings doesn't exist in the world of law, or especially the world of money. People would always value money over just feeling bad, and that's my thing, especially with crypto. If you notice, every crypto commercial you've probably seen involves some sort of celebrity or athlete who's promoting it, because it's like that in today's society. Going back to technology, the technology and social media aspect of something like crypto is huge. Even we can use the example of the GameStop kind of phase there for a while. Everybody knows GameStop is literally insanely overvalued, but they were able to jack up that price to try to hurt other investors. And the idea with that too, I remember laughing because not even probably a week before the GameStop stock price took off, the GameStop right by our Kroger shut down. And I'm like, so all these physical locations are shutting down, but somehow the stock is quadruple, by 200-300 times. So it's easy to inflate a stock. That actually goes back to the regulation. For example, if we could use, you mentioned Elon Musk and Tesla. For anybody who he knows that have large holdings in Tesla, typically whenever you're gifted stock because you're an employee there or so forth, there are regulations within that ownership that say you could only sell XYZ amount of that stock. Because of that scenario, they don't want somebody who, for example, helped them initially get the S model off the ground. We gifted them 100,000 stock. Now that stock is worth $7 million. They don't want them to just go cash their $7 million in, because that's going to, all of a sudden, everybody else who's holding that stock, their value all just decreased because now 100,000 shares just got dumped into the market, right? So there's regulations in place that stop and prevent people from doing that, because FINRA and SEIC don't allow that sort of churning to happen, or that sort of market fluctuation. So it is able to where if you have enough stock, you can drastically change the price of that holding. But at least in that scenario, you're somewhat protected. In crypto, you're not at all. You have no idea what could happen, and it's constantly changing, right? You have no idea what someone who's owning 100 shares of Bitcoin is going to possibly do whenever it hits an all-time high. They can dump it all, and then now all your shares are that much less, right? So, yeah, just think about it. Just me talking, it freaks me out. So we have to understand how that can work. And you also have to understand that people are promoting this because they're making money. If you were on that side, if you're someone listening and you have the opportunity to go out and make $1 billion because you have enough of a social media following to make that sort of impact, all rights, do it. Good for you. That's an amazing position to be in a scenario where you have that sort of pool. But unfortunately, it's really people who are already very wealthy, who are typically have some sort of celebrity eye or following it, so they have that choice. And those are the ones who are really profiting, not the average investor or the average person who, lives in a small town in the middle of Arizona or something and just likes watching the Real Housewives. Those people their investment strategies are much different than yours.
Yeah,
and they're
I love that you brought that up because that was one of the points that I wanted to make. Is like there are YouTubers who do this where they have a following. Let's say they have 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers, and they go out and they just purchased a trash coin that's worth 0.00000036, right? So they buy up tons and tons and tons of it. Boom, they go out, they tell us sellers, this is the new coin, this is the one that's about to explode, blah, blah, blah. And everyone feeds off of that. They want to become a millionaire, just like their favorite YouTuber, and they go and buy it. And the only person that's making money off of this is the YouTubers that are promoting it. And they'll get together. One might have 5 million, one might have 7 million. Now they have 12 million total. And so, listeners and viewers. So, this is something that's really happening every single day. And I just want people to understand like, there's a reason why. And I'm going to give another example. Very few people might even remember this game, but there was a game called RuneScape. Okay. It was super duper, like super duper old school. And there was this thing called a merchant clan. And what the clan leaders would do, they would all have hundreds of friends that, you know, were diehard followers. Let's say they wanted to make some money. So they would buy an item. Let's just call it a bow. Let's say the bow was worth 5 coins. They would buy as much bows as humanly possible. Then they tell all their friends, they get them all together, thousands of people into one clan, and they'll say, all right, guys, we're going to buy bows until they're worth 500 coins, right? And then we're all going to dump them. We're all going to sell them. We're all going to collect a profit and so on. So their followers, yeah, let's do it. So they buy the bows. Everybody, thousands of people would be buying them. They jack up the price. And let's say the price only gets up to like 300. While, you know, everybody's still buying the bows, the leaders who came up with the idea, they're telling everyone, come on, continue buying, continue buying. We're going to hit 500 tomorrow, 500 coins each. While they're telling you that, they're already selling the bows they bought for 5 coins. Now they're selling it for 300. So, and then the price never hits 500. People never sell them. And now you're stuck with this useless item that no one ever knew. Everybody knew it was never going to hit 500, but because they were sold that dream, they ended up falling for it. And it's a very cliche example, but that's what I see happening in the Bitcoin space with these YouTubers.
Yeah.
So, and also I related to like, let's look at Dogecoin. You know, Doge to $1 was the meme for like a whole year, and Elon Musk was supporting it. And I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but it never hit $1. And so I know someone who bought like $40,000 worth of Dogecoin when it was at like 60 cents. And he was so, yeah, it was crazy. And I still talk to, I think he's still holding it. But what happened was Elon Musk went on SNL, Saturday Night Live, and they thought like that was the night that it was going to hit $1 because Elon was going to be all over everyone's TV talking about Dogecoin. And it ended up absolutely plummeting the night he went on SNL. And people lost hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars because they were sold a dream. You know what, man? I'm gonna be honest. I don't know because I honestly don't know. If I were him, I would have. But I mean, he was talking about Tesla's gonna start accepting Dogecoin as payment and things like that. And so this is a real life example that everyone can see. You can research that this happened. So don't be a victim to it, right? Especially if you're someone who only has $5,000, only has $10,000. Don't be a victim because these things are happening. Whether he sold it or not, I actually don't know. I feel like if he did, it would have made headlines and everybody would have known, but it didn't make headlines. So
I think even in that, I don't know if there's even a, like, for example, even in the stock market, I mean, you could figure out a way to buy and sell stock privately or through a different party or name. But there's still kind of a way to know, like if Elon Musk sold 1 million shares of Tesla, we'd all know instantly. Is that a thing in crypto? Like, is there some sort of digital footprint or some sort of like blotter that exists where people could figure out that information? That part I don't know. So if it does exist, I feel like a dummy for not knowing that, but I don't know if that exists, right? So will we even know if he did?
So I know 100% it does for NFTs. For actual crypto, I really don't know. And that's a great
Yeah.
question to ask because I know some platforms track it, of course. Whatever platform you're
Yeah.
trading on tracks the transactions,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if that's public knowledge.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are
And is
like,
that
they don't want people tracking. There was this big
exactly?
backlash of the IRS saying, look, if you have over $600 worth of transactions in things like Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, or all of these other third-party softwares, they're going to start reporting it to the IRS for tax purposes. Well, why is there backlash over that? But your crypto wallets are doing the same thing. They're still sending you a
Yep.
1099 at the end of the year. They are individually tracking your profits and your losses. So it's like, why have so much backlash over things like PayPal and Zelle and all these other things doing it when the crypto
Yeah.
wallets are also doing it?
Well, I think people thought that it was somehow going to be this way where you could make money and the IRS wasn't going to know. That's the IRS is Big Brother, the original form of Big Brother. They're always going to know what you're doing. Yeah, that's something that I'm curious. I definitely want to look into that, but it definitely does make it, even then I would imagine that the personal data in terms of who it is who traded that probably isn't going to be disclosed. They might show the amount sold, but I'm sure someone could also say, oh, well, that was somebody else. It wasn't me, right? I think you could probably almost kind of have deny whether it was you, and I don't think they really find out unless somebody in your inner circle may be told.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last topic the question I want to pose to the audience, and maybe even you might have an answer, Joey, but just to get your mind thinking about this whole crypto thing is like, in modern history, what form of currency have people bought in order to retain value over a long term? I
The only
personally
thing I can think
can't.
of is gold.
But is gold even a
But that's
currency
not even a
anymore?
currency,
Exactly.
right?
That's the point I was trying to make. Is like, no one goes and buys the peso or the rupee or whatever form of currency that's actively trading in
Yeah,
order to retain value. It's always something along
exactly.
like a I'm not sure the word to use, but it's always like gold or silver or things, materials such as those. So
Some
it's
sort of
like
precious metal.
precious metals, exactly.
Yep.
So and even those are constantly being created and mined and things like that. So that just
Absolutely.
goes back to the point, like, things are always being created. So are these
Yes.
currencies. So just ask yourself, guys, what form of currency have people bought in order to retain value over a long term? And if you can come up with 100 things to describe that, good for you. It might be the storage of wealth for you. But me personally, it doesn't happen, right? Because it just doesn't happen.
Key there is long term. That's what we preach every time, right? None of the stuff I think people should look at as a long term investment.
Amen. Amen. So now let's move on to NFTs. And NFTs is more of a interesting topic for me. And I did a
Same.
little bit more digging when it comes to NFTs because I really think NFTs, unlike crypto, I think NFTs are here to stay, but at the volume at which they are being utilized and stuff is obviously not here to stay. And I'll explain why as we go on. I'm going to go over some quick terms that you guys might have heard in order to just express the points we're making. So there's something called NFT minting. And what that is basically they're releasing an NFT. Oftentimes I see them release 10,000 at a time, and they're all 10,000 individual NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and they're all unique in their own way. And normally there's around 10,000 of them. Of course, some have more, some have less. So, and I believe they all meant for the same price. It mints, and then it's like a grab bag where you just randomly get one of the 10,000 and you hope it's worth whatever someone else will pay for it. The question I ask is, of those 10,000, how many do you guys actually think turn a profit? I mean, and we all hear these stories about Post Malone and just all of these celebrities buying these NFTs for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, and it's, I relate it back to the art world. You know, people buy art
Yes.
pieces for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to people like me, they have no real value, but to some people,
Yes.
they do. So that's just the question I like to open up with is like, of the 10,000, how many do you guys think actually turn a profit? Like, you don't hear about the losers. With that being said, Joey,
Yeah.
where do you think the money is being made with NFTs? Like,
I mean, the most obvious is definitely just like we talked about with the crypto is typically in the high net worth. And when we say high net worth, the 1% of the 1%, right? The uber wealthy who value those sort of things. Like, for example, you mentioned Post Malone, or I know a lot of athletes too are selling NFTs. Those people, those athletes, I mean, you think about it, NFTs have created a platform for people with some sort of following or value. So intrinsic value. This actually almost kind of is similar to, like, for example, the big debate with the NCAA and paying student athletes. Well, the pro is obviously, or the conversation is athletes should get paid money because they're making millions for an institution. But then when you get into it and you say, well, all right, well, we're going to pay the women's polo team, the men's polo team, the women's soccer team, the men's soccer team, everybody gets equal pay. And they're thinking, and then the number one NFL draft pick is saying, that's not fair. Me alone, for bringing a national championship to an institution, my sport funds all these other sports. I should get more. Well, NFTs actually kind of give you the digital platform to do that. Now you could go out there and you could essentially sell your worth, whether it's art, whether it's your rookie card or something of that nature, and make an income for yourself that you're not having to share with some sort of corporation or entity, right? So for people who have some sort of built-in worth, they're making a lot of money off NFTs. And me personally, when I'm looking at these, I'm way more intrigued by NFTs than I am crypto, because you're exactly right. NFTs are literally worth what someone's willing to pay you for it. The problem is exactly that. If there's 10,000 of those shares, you do have to buy one that's unique enough where you think someone else might purchase that, or you have to see your own intrinsic value into it as to, all right, this is something that I like for a personal reason, like art. That's a perfect example, right? We all can look at a Picasso and be like, man, that's the ugliest painting I've ever seen, but it's being sold for 10 million, right? Because there's people out there, art enthusiasts, want to have an original Picasso, right? The average person, no. Can they afford it? No. Do they see that much value? No. But so the NFTs are literally the absolute market of, exactly what it's worth. That data is saved into the NFT. You know exactly what it's sold for. And then you go and you can look at that stored data and identify exactly what the value. So the value isn't really changed based off a consistent market, right? Like the crypto is. The value is exactly what you purchased for it. And then you have to turn around and sell it for a higher value and hope somebody else out there in this digital world wants that more than you, really. So I do like it because I think it does allow people to own and get into that art world, or just owning some sort of entity without having to personally buy the asset. So going back to that digital age is really turning a profit for people. But it's hard for me to think, all right, well, I'm just going to buy all 10,000 shares. If you bought all 10,000, you probably could at least turn a profit because you'd be able to sell them all, and some would certainly be worth more than the other. But if you bought one of the 10,000, that one could very easily be worth zero, right? There might not be enough people out there that see it as high of a value, especially if they go and, for example, let's say one of those, somebody does see huge value, and that one of those 10,000 went from, initially a purchase of $100 to now, I don't know, 100,000, right? Well, now, hey, one of these is 100,000, so I'm valuing it as $100,000 now, right? What if there's not another person out there who's willing to pay 100,000 for it? You could sit on that thing forever, just continue to hope that you could sell it, right? So it does at least give you a market to compare it to, but it's not like the housing market where, as houses in your area start to sell for the same price, as long as you have something equal, you'll eventually sell it for that price, or most likely will. It doesn't work like that in a digital market, because it's not an asset that someone's going to go live in, right? It's just an asset that someone likes to just simply say they own it. And like you mentioned, in a time where recession's coming out and so forth, you might not want to spend that extra $100,000 because now your profit or your income is maybe reduced. So it's a whole world of unknowns, but I think it's at least a little bit easier to follow for people and easier to understand.
Yeah, and I think it's because we've had the art world for so long. This is basically digital art. So we actually have something to compare to. There has been something in the past where there is intrinsic value to certain people, and they will pay a certain dollar amount for it to create a profit. I'd love how you compare it to like real estate. It's just like if I own this NFT and 3 more in the collection sell for $100,000. In real estate, if 3 in my area sold for $100,000, that means mine is around $100,000.
Yep.
It's completely the opposite of NFTs. Like you can have an NFT that people wouldn't take for free, but others in the same category have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. That's the reality we live in. The same thing for some artists. Like an artist can have one painting sell for multi-million dollars, but people won't buy the other 9,000 that they actually painted. But then you have some painters who, if they paint one, every single one's going for over $1 million. So there is a very, very wide variety of there's just a very wide variety of value when it comes to NFTs and collecting them. The main value I see coming out of them, the people who are making the most money are the artists and the creators of the NFTs who are selling them.
Yes.
And I always tell people, like, if you can create NFTs and sell them, I would do it. Like I personally, I'm not into that, but what do you have to lose? You're putting your digital artistry and you're just selling your digital artistry. So what is there to lose? That's the same thing of any other side hustle. If you're able to create a good and sell it, you do that. And then they have amazing things like royalties where the creator or the first person to mint it, I believe, gets 10% of every transaction going forward. So that's crazy. And that's how people like Gary Vee have made hundreds of $1 million on NFTs because they create it. And every time it's sold, they only really bought it because of his name, which it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and every single transaction, every single time it's sold going forward, he's getting 10%. If it sells for $100,000, boom, he wakes up to a $10,000 paycheck, right? That's where the real money is being made in creating and selling NFTs, not buying and reselling of NFTs.
Yeah.
So
the common theme here is wealthy, meaning people who are wealthy and have a lot of public influence continue to stay very wealthy. They continue to increase their public influence.
Yeah,
the average American does not have that.
Mm-hmm. And it's they're using disposable income. They're not using their livelihood. There was one comparison. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead with the comparison because I do want to hear that because it actually might be what I was about to mention too.
Someone, I think I was listening to the Impulsive podcast clip, and Logan Paul, he compared NFTs to card collecting, like sports cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards or game cards or whatever. And it really, now I'm going to say it really intrigued me because I never thought about it like that. If someone came up to me and they said, "Hey, James, I have this PSA 10 rare collectible Charizard Pokemon first edition, gold, black, whatever," I'd be like, "Man, that is awesome." He's like, "Do you want to buy it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give you $30 for it." And they'll be like, "Oh, how dare you?" When it's $100,000 card. It's not worth $100,000 to me, but it might be worth $100,000 to someone else. And so it was a really, really great comparison. It's like people make money off of playing cards and trading cards, getting them valuated and stuff. And so the money can be made there, but to the average you're not going to make money on the average person. You're going to make money from the person who has disposable income that wants to collect things like that. And the other comparison when it comes to that is like having a fake NFT, meaning if you screenshot an NFT, yes, you have it, but now it's kind of like having a fake Pokemon card. Its value is zero because it's fake. So that was a comparison that it really opened my eyes that, okay, there is a very small niche market for these things, but the opportunity is, there's a vast opportunity.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to tell you. When I first started researching NFTs, my exact thought process was, wow, this is just like trading cards. And I instantly was intrigued because I know there's a market for that. We just watched, I think was it Willie Mays or some baseball player just sold for the highest sold card in history, and like something in sort of like 30 million or something like that, right? So I knew right away there's absolutely a market for this sort of scenario. And then it also made me think of people say it's a conspiracy theory, but it honestly isn't. And the world of art, when it's kind of was created, was a scenario where people could value something that others obviously don't see value in, right? But also that allowed people to essentially trade and sell that art or donate that art as huge tax write-offs. I don't know if you can do the same thing with NFTs, but it also gives you that vibe of, well, I could create an NFT, I could donate it and value it at X. So, it's valued at say $100,000, artwork. And then I write that off on my taxes. I don't know if that's a thing you do with NFTs, but that's kind of how the world of artwork has happened, is donating pieces of art that are highly, highly valued, in my opinion, overvalued, because it is what one person thinks it's worth, maybe not others, but that one person can take that artwork as a donation or an asset that they now have gifted and can view that as a taxable deduction. It's a way that wealthy people can essentially avoid taxation, right? So that's kind of one of the big conspiracy theories behind the world of art, is that people basically just use it as a way to essentially hide taxes. I don't think you can do it with NFTs, but it's the same idea, is that you just really need one person to value it. I don't think, same concept. I don't think I would bank my financial future on that, of I'm going to create an asset and hope somebody out there at some point is going to want to buy this. Especially if I'm just, Joey Snyder, who's just a random guy who lives in Richmond.
Yeah.
I don't really have a tangible asset to sell. But the idea behind it is so intriguing, to me.
Yeah, that topic has definitely come up. I've definitely heard the art conspiracy about using it as tax write-offs and things like that, like paying the appraiser a little extra dollar for a couple million and valuation. But I definitely heard of that. But the thing is, I don't see why you couldn't do it with NFTs, because you could also do it with trading cards.
Exactly.
The IRS tax code is so loopity doopity, like that loophole is still there. If you buy an NFT for 10,000, or let's just say you mint it for $500, and you somehow, I don't know if there's NFT appraisers out there that appraises it for $100,000 and you donate it, well, your $1,000 purchase just saved you whatever in tax deductions. So
for the wealthy, it works, right? Imagine, for example, let's just say you're a rookie NBA athlete. Number one pick. So let's say it was Zion Williamson. They come to him and say, hey, we're going to issue 10,000 NFT shares of your rookie card. You go out there and you sell your 10,000. I can imagine the amount of money that he probably would get from that is high, because everybody's thinking, hey, I could own a rookie card from somebody who people are viewing as the next LeBron James. Hold on to this, and this could possibly turn into 100,000. All while he takes that, maybe donates one that was worth a couple 100,000, instantly lowers his taxable income on that $30 million rookie salary he signed. Works well for him. Mm-hmm. You have to really hang on to that and hope that he ends up not getting hurt. He is, by the way, he's not playing, but he continues to have a long, successful career. And then you can, in turn, at some point, hopefully at least sell it for something. Whether or not you're 1 out of 10,000 rookie cards is going to be the one that sells for the big bucks, who knows? But I could see why somebody would maybe do that, because hopefully it's something that's affordable initially, right? But it really benefits him now.
Yeah, and that just goes back to who's making the guaranteed money. It's the artist. It's the seller.
Yes.
They're making the real money.
Yes.
So I came up when I was doing my little research on NFTs. There was a couple things that kept coming up as reasons to purchase NFTs. So I want to start going over these reasons to purchase them. The first one, which is kind of the joke for me, but we can share opinions on it, is that some NFTs produce passive income. And this income is in the form, don't start, Joey. Hold on, let me get through this, right? And this passive income is in the form of a currency that is only specific for certain for specific websites or transaction platforms. For example, the example we're going to use today is the Genesis Kong. It's an NFT that it creates a passive income of 10 bananas a day. Not real bananas. It's like a little emoticon of a banana, and it's called a banana, and the ticker sign is banana. And each banana, digital banana, is last time I looked it up, was worth $15.98. So let's just go with $16. So, and it creates 10 a day, which is $150 a day. Follow me, guys. This is real stuff, right? So you can buy one of these Genesis Kongs for around $26,000. And it would create enough bananas a year for $54,000 of income. That's the reason to buy the NFT, is for the bananas. And of course, the banana symbolizes like a normal stock where its value goes up and down depending on whatever outside forces influence these bananas. It's embarrassing even talking about this. What do you think about that, Joey? Like, what do you think about the passive income created through bananas? And this is just one example.
This almost goes to the example you're talking about with crypto, of like there being a maximum amount of crypto that could be sold. In a scenario like that, what if, was there a limit as to how many of these Kongs you could purchase? Because if it's making 10 bananas per day every year, and there's other people who are also purchasing it, think about how many bananas are gonna flood the market. And eventually, for every, I look at it as almost every 10 bananas is being created, you're basically devaluing your asset. Because every time you make 10 more, now there's 10 more that are being sold. Maybe they're at the $15, but they're instantly being devalued as more and more of those are being put out into the market. It's simple supply and demand, in my opinion. So that's why I kind of was laughing a little bit, because it's a silly idea. I think the passive income can come from somebody who has an asset to sell, like a real formable asset, like a famous photographer. I saw one that was talking about, he sold the first 100 days, and it was 100 photos from the World War II, that are all original content photos, something of that nature, right? Where people want to have that original asset. And the question is, well, why wouldn't I just go pull the picture off the internet? Well, exactly, you can. You can technically go individually get those photos. And for us, the average person might like one of those photos. Like, for example, the iconic one of all those soldiers holding up the flag, right? So that nature, people love that sort of photo. But there are somebody out there who likes the fact of owning the original form of it, right? The original version. So for the creator, they might be able to create passive income, because there will be people who might try to sell those. But it's crazy to just buy something that's not really an asset. It's literally just a Kong who's then spitting out bananas, right? So I think it could certainly be a fad for a while. But also, I hate it when people use the term passive income when it's referring to anything that's basically not the retirement, not the investment market, essentially investing in the actual, some sort of equities or housing. Get the idea of passive income being created from anything else. There's nothing else out there that's going to give you true passive income from the average investor that is an open market that everybody can essentially use, have access to, and create wealth from. If you go invest in the market, at some point you're going to stop investing, you'll be retired, you will start creating passive income. During that time, you're going to get dividend, you're going to get dividends back to you. At some point, you'll be able to create a revenue stream off of the asset you own. Same thing with a house, right? If you have maybe one rental, maybe two rentals, all of a sudden you start making income off that rental income. Those are all things that are true passive income. something that has no value really in the market and is kind of only based off what someone's willing to pay for it is not going to be a way to go about creating passive income for a long-term solution.
Exactly. And
I
the
don't know
passive
many people who
income,
have that kind of money to waste.
the passive income we're talking about, guys, is actual dollars, right? This
Yes.
isn't rupees. This isn't bananas. Like, it's crazy to me that you can own a piece of art and they're going to give you 10 bananas a day, 10 digital bananas. They're going to create them. Boom. We're going to create the code for it. And we're going to give it to you. And I'm going to tell you they're $16 each. It's just, it baffles me because who's going to go and buy a digital banana icon for $16 each? It baffles, but it always goes back to that. Like, it's only worth what someone else will pay for it. And no one is paying for that. They are artificially setting a price for this thing that they created based on.
They're also setting it low strategically because they know there's going to be a handful of people who see it on TikTok or Twitter or whatever and be like, oh, $15, that's nothing, right? That's, a case of beer or whatever. And they'll buy one. And so for the average person who's just randomly buying one, exactly, that person might be able to make some income off of those just random people who are buying one because it's cheap. But those random people are probably the majority of people that we're talking to, that we're trying to get out there and reach. And that's the worst spot you want to put your $15. Just go buy beer and enjoy yourself on the weekend instead of buying this banana.
Exactly, man. So another topic that reasons to purchase NFTs is that some NFTs get you into these exclusive groups, right? Yes. So for example, I think one is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And if you own this ape, you get into a Discord with 10,000 of the most wealthiest, top of the top 1%, people who can afford this Bored Ape, which is worth tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm going to be very blunt. Do you really think this top 1% of people are sitting at home on Discord talking to each other? It's one of those things. It's like, do you really think Snoop Dogg is going to be like, hey, Joey, you own a Bored Ape. I want to invite you to Miami this weekend and get on my yacht and we can talk about business. It's all about selling them a dream. Like, you're selling a dream that if you pay for this piece of art, that you're gonna get into the Illuminati, you're gonna get into the 1%, and you're gonna be able to pick the brains of these ultra wealthy, successful people. What you don't understand is these people do not care what art you own. They care about the ideas you have, the wisdom you have, the value that you bring. They're trying to surround.
What can you do for me?
Exactly. What can you do for me? It's like, as humans, we build relationships based on trust, likability, value you bring, but we don't base our relationships on what you own. So it's just a crazy thought that people fall for. It's a dream that people are sold, that if you buy this piece of art, now you're in the elite, you're surrounded. And it goes back, I guess I'm kind of a portrayer of this dream, because I always say, and you always say, your net worth is your net worth, right? You're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So the goal of yours is to surround yourself with the best people in the world to get there. But this isn't the way to do it.
If you have to pay to be a part of the club, you're paying to be a part of the club because you have that sort of money. But people who are buying that's the point. You don't have that sort of money to run with celebrities, right? You're buying essentially an asset that they sold you for a dream, to think that you're part of a club that doesn't really exist, nor is it going to necessarily benefit you, right? You're exactly right. They're not your net worth or your network. And your net worth isn't one that would put you with that. Snoop Dogg probably would talk to you if you were a millionaire who had a great idea to help him, get into marketing into a new network. So maybe it was something where you could, record sound equipment anywhere, right? Or something that would help his celebrity and his status and his net worth increase. But if you're looking at him as, hey, I could hopefully use you to increase my income from 50 to 80. No, they're not there to help you somehow make some digital network increase. Another example I saw was somebody, I remember a kid I work with told me about when NFTs came out. He was really intrigued because they were doing, somebody he knew was trading them for horses. And it's one of those things where we all know, right? The uber wealthy essentially own horses. That's the way that very wealthy people own horses. They sell for $100,000. They breed them, right? Well, you could go buy an NFT on a horse that's a quote breeder. And in theory, you should be able to make some sort of income off of every time that they're breeding, right? But the same, what happens at the ones that are probably very successful probably are trading at very high rates. So you're probably buying it at high. But you can go in there and be speculative. Okay, well, this was an off breed of the last Kentucky Derby in 1947 or 1992, right, or whatever it is, right? It's a descendant of that. I'm going to go make a speculation, not an investment, a speculation that he might be the next big breeder. And it goes back to the same concept. You're taking a bit of a gamble to hope that it works out, and people can sell that as an NFT. And kind of sell that dream that you might have the next big breeder who's gonna, every time he breeds, he's gonna make 3 million, right? I think that's a lot. And that's also one of the things you really need to be in that world. So whether it's trading cards, whether it's art, whether it's horses, you really need to understand that world. And I don't think the average person is spending a lot of time in all those, right? You might understand how horse races work. Me and my wife like to bet on for fun for the Kentucky Derby. But I don't know which ones are the top breeders. I don't know which ones have the top trainers and the top facilities and those sort of things. That goes all the way back to the research. You need to continue to understand and research to make an actual educated decision on not only an investment, but hopefully a long-term investment. And that's not really the case here,
Yeah. The theme of this episode is so much of stop trying to get rich quick and do your research, right?
Yes.
Let's go back to this Genesis Kong, for example, creating 10 bananas a day. Let's say I go deeper into it, right? And I'm looking, okay, how many bananas are trading a day? Let's just say they're trading hundreds of thousands a day. Who's buying the bananas? Do I see that the owner of the website is buying the bananas back from the people? Well, now I know it's how there's only one person really buying it. There's one main supply for it. But let's say, I don't know, it all, that's a silly example because it's so bizarre and wild, but it's all about knowing what you're getting. Mm-hmm. Like you can buy an NFT and get into a Discord with Snoop Dogg and Post Malone and all these people, right? And if you actually have value you can bring to them, meaning if you're an artist who wants to get signed, or if you're, whatever. I personally don't believe they're hanging out in these Discords on a daily basis. They might have assistants or whatever in there. But the point I'm trying to make is if you are not valuable as a person, if you cannot bring value to someone, then being around them there's a 0% chance you're going to get anything from it. Whether you paid $50,000 or you just walked up to them in a restaurant, you know what I mean? So don't waste your money trying to buy value. You can't buy value. You can't pay your way to become valuable to someone or to provide value to someone. So getting into these exclusive groups aren't going to do you any if you just spent your life savings on a picture. Okay. The
best way to describe it is a paid charity, meaning they obviously, a lot of these celebrities give back to charity because there's, maybe something happened with you're sick or something of that nature. Celebrities like to give back to charity. Well, in this case, they're giving back to charity, but you're paying them to do it. You are a charity case in their eyes. You're literally an obligation that they feel like they have to at least give you something because you paid for it. But they're not going to go out of their way to help you. They're not going to go out of their way to turn you into the next Post Malone, right? To record your art or whatever. So if you have an asset that they view as valuable and something they can make more money, great. But somebody who just thinks you want to be part of the club, you're literally a paid charity is how I would view it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So the last thing we're going to cover about NFTs is something called gas prices. We know it as transaction fees, right? Just realize if you're going to be buying and selling NFTs, you're going to be essentially you're paying transaction fees every single time you buy. So you could mint something for $100 and the gas fee is $250, right? So what are you really paying for this NFT? What are you paying for this gamble? So, and that's just another reason it's like if you're going to be trading, NFTs trying to make money, just understand like okay, so the price of the NFT goes to the creator or the seller. The gas prices goes to the platform, right?
Yes.
Who uh that is facilitating the trade.
Correct.
So these people are making money off of your gamble.
Yes.
So do you want to be a part of that? Do you want to continue getting? It's kind of like the casino, except it's not as like the casino makes money every time you gamble, right? They get a little bit if you win. If you lose, you're going to pay. If you win, you're going to pay. So if you're going in there losing every single day, it goes back to that is not a good investment.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Exactly right.
So let's move on to the last one, Joey. I'm not even going to spend too much time on it just because it baffles me. It really does. Is digital real estate. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a metaverse created by different platforms, and they sell land of their created metaverse to people. And one of the most noticeable ones was one by I think the creator is Sandbox, and there was a big article headline. It's like the biggest words that were capitalized was Snoop Dogg and 450,000. And when you actually get into the article, you realize that someone, they didn't name the person, paid $450,000 for a piece of digital real estate next to Snoop Dogg's digital real estate. So it's one of the cases where the article title is meant to kind of mislead you to think, oh, Snoop Dogg paid $450,000 for digital real estate in Sandbox, so it's got to be a good investment. But really, it was someone else paying $450,000 just to live next to him in the multiverse, right? The metaverse. It's crazy. So, like, Joey, what is your opinion on this whole digital real estate thing? And yeah.
Again, technology has created a lot of great ways to make money, to really be something that maybe you're not, or give a perception of something. But this is one of those scenarios that you are literally buying this purely out of enjoyment. If you want to buy some digital real estate, maybe a graveyard, right? Maybe put where you get buried next to Snoop Dogg, online. But guess what? You're never going to actually be next to him. You're never going to meet him. It's silly, but same thing. Going back to the investing, if you want to get into real estate, get into actual real physical real estate. If you are worried and you don't have the assets to get into real estate, go buy real estate investment trust, REITs. You could go invest in REITs in the market and get into a physical, you could actually ownership to physical properties that exist in real time and actually make some money off of it. Digital real estate is something that, same concept. If I was a celebrity, I would literally go out and make 4 or 5 plots and create this digital world. And heck, if people buy it, why not? But the people buying it are not then turning it around and churning it. This is not a digital version of literally going in, buying a home, renovating it, and turning it around, right? And selling that house for profit.
I'm just thinking like what if this guy, like, he spends $450,000, he sets up a rental, he goes a rental house and he rents it out to people like, oh, do you want to live next to Snoop Dogg in the metaverse? And he's charging people, and it's just like that would never happen. Like, I hope we don't come to a world where that is the reality we're living in.
Yes.
Like it's laughable, but it's so, and again, we don't know, like from this article, we don't know who bought the plot of land or whatever, but it's like you're not buying something and renting it to Apple so they can run a store out of it in the metaverse. Like these are not things that are happening. And it goes back to everything else we talked about. Like, what's stopping the average person from creating their own metaverse for essentially free? You're creating real estate, right?
Correct.
Like there's no limit to these things. So what is its true value? And some people will argue like, well, there's no limit to our currency or currency in the whole world. Yes, that's true, but it also, because it's a necessity to, keep the world moving and keep transactions going, it does have its own value based on what someone will give you for it. And of course, it's diminishing over time, but this, like, people actually want the dollar because it can actually buy them things like things like digital real estate. I mean, listen, guys, invest in real estate. Like, we're on this earth. There's only so much land, and land is created very, very slowly by volcanoes. It's like we're not going to get that much land anytime soon. So invest in real estate in the real world that you can actually create an income off of. And yeah, it baffles me, man. It really baffles me.
Absolutely. There's always going to be something out there like this that exists where a very small group of people will make a decent amount of income, and the majority of people are just going to be paying. Don't be the person who's paying. It's just do what works. Think about yourself. Invest in something that's going to work for you and your personal financial planning goals and so forth. And don't just follow what's neat on Instagram or whatever random Instagram influencer is promoting next, because they obviously are promoting because they're getting a profit. If you could profit from something like that, please. Like, I don't know, what if you're somebody who happened to take a picture of a very famous picture in history, right? You might be able to sell it on NFT. Somebody would probably value that. But if you're not someone who has some sort of asset like that, has some sort of historical meaning or some sort of true value, this probably isn't the world for you. It's fun to mess around with. Maybe if you want to buy your $15 banana, leave it at one banana and leave it alone.
It's not even a real banana. You can't even eat it. It's just like a picture of a banana. It's like, if you want to pay $15 for a banana, you can actually eat it. I am happy for you to do that than to buy a freaking picture of a banana and say it's worth $15.
Well, they always say, some people, the value is in the eye of the beholder. So, it might be one of those things where, hey, you waking up every day and seeing that banana on your phone brings value to you. Then that's obviously something that you and I can't, James, you and I can't necessarily judge.
Oh, you roll over like, oh, let me check on my banana today. Like,
yeah, let's see how it's growing.
Oh, it turned into 2 bananas. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I mean, I think the main concept I hope people really get from this talk is like, separate your investing from your gambling and from your speculation and all those other things, right? You should be investing with asset classes that have a history of producing a valid return and something that you actually understand, something you actually use. If you guys think that there's no regulation coming to NFTs or cryptos, you're sadly mistaken, right? We're still so early in it. Joey said it earlier, like the IRS, it's theirs, right? They're coming for all of this stuff. And people have already begun expressing like tax loopholes to make a profit from sales NFTs and showing a loss, doing like offshore accounts and donations to, offset their gains, like we talked about earlier. So these are all things that the IRS is going to catch on to, and don't get caught, because the IRS, they have unlimited power. They have absolutely unlimited power. And any closing things you want to bring up, Joey?
I think one thing we forgot was a lot of NFTs are also purchased and sold with crypto. right? So they kind of almost go hand in hand where you could also almost be double taxed. So for example, like say I buy crypto. Let's just say for today's sake, I bought it at 50. I went and I bought an NFT. My NFT grew, I sold it. Well, my crypto value might have also grown. So after that's all said and done, I might end up having to pay double taxes, pay taxing on my NFT profit as well as my crypto profit, right? So we have to just understand some of those other nuances that go into it. I think just like investment we talk about, we always want to talk about net return. I always like to joke when someone asks you how much money do you make, you never tell them how much you make after taxes. You always tell them the gross amount because of course it's, funner to say, but so same concept. You might have made 100,000 on your NFT, but if it costed you XYZ in crypto, your crypto either went up or down. Of course, you have your tax income, whether it's short-term or long-term dividend tax. What is that true net return? Hopefully, of course, it's hopefully still more than what you paid for it. But always understand there's always going to be a cost of doing business. Right now, that's still kind of in the gray area, right? Certainly, some of those regulations can change and become even higher. But I will admit, NFTs to me are a lot more intriguing than crypto, but unfortunately, they kind of go hand in hand. So I'll probably be on the sideline there. Something like an NFT, if you're purchasing it, you're probably purchasing it because there's some sort of personal belief. So whether you're a huge fan of a famous athlete, or you really like a person's specific artwork and you simply just want to own it, you have the ability to do that now and actually kind of be the quote average investor versus the world of real art where there's just one piece of art and everyone's buying for it. You unfortunately probably won't ever get to own a piece of that because you just can't afford it. So this has really just taken the artwork and that value that majority of the uber wealthy probably played in for years and taken it to the average investor. So just understand some of those risks that are associated with it and how it could really lead to having assets that might not be worth anything. So purely look at them as something that you personally value, as a gamble, and you're truly speculating that and hoping that it goes up. But this should all be things you do well after you took care of what we mentioned earlier. You establish a savings plan, paid off your high interest debts, you fund your retirement plan through work, you're doing your Roth IRA, you're doing your non-qualified brokerage account. Even if you get into real estate, those are all things that you could do before you get into crypto and NFTs. If you get into them because you simply had a little bit extra money. It was a one-time purchase. You figured, hey, I got the FOMO. I don't want to miss out. I just want to hold on, have a piece of the pie. Be willing to lose that piece if it doesn't work out. But don't rely on that as your financial plan.
I love it, man. I love it. It's kind of like you talk about in our budget episode on episode 18. You talk about the 20%, right? A part of that 20% savings should not be going into NFTs. That should be going into
0% of it.
Yeah, 0% of that 20%. Now, if after all your luxuries and after all that, you got a little bit of extra money you want to gamble with, that's where you do it. Not in that 20%. Yes. That 20% is for proven wealth building endeavors. Real estate, stock market, investing in businesses, investing in yourself, things like that.
Yeah.
Warren
That's
Buffett.
another thing too, right? Invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you invest in yourself and create an NFT, do that instead.
Because that's who makes the money, the creator and the seller. 10% on every transaction. That's crazy. For the lifetime of the NFT's existence, that's great. That's where Gary Vee is killing it. Exactly. Warren Buffett has a quote I want to just throw out there that kind of ties into everything we talked about. He said, anytime you buy a non-productive asset, you're counting on someone else to buy your non-productive asset for more. And they are counting on someone to purchase that non-productive asset for more. And the story never ends well. So when you're buying these cryptocurrencies, these NFTs, this digital real estate as an investment, you are buying it in hopes that someone values it more than you did at the time of purchase. And when it's something that has no true value, it's when you can get hurt the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's close it by, let me ask you this, Joey. After everything we just spoke about, would you ever buy cryptocurrency?
No. No, No. Maybe they might come when I get to a point where I have a ton of wealth and I'm just looking to waste money. At that point, sure. I don't see that ever happening personally. I still, anytime I'm looking to save money somewhere else, it's so hard for me not to put in what I know works. And what I know I'm going to be able to, not guarantee, because we can't use the word guarantee, but I could increase my probability of success and have an idea of what that success is going to look like versus throwing money in there and just hoping it works out. That is wild to me.
Yeah, I can't agree with you.
I will say, like I mentioned, NFTs, I'm a little bit more into, but if I have to buy crypto to get one, out. I'm done. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's funny because crypto, like, it changes every single second. So you could buy $5,000 worth of crypto to buy a $5,000 NFT, and then now it's worth 4,500, and now you got to go spend 500 more dollars. It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I will say,
Exactly.
I would buy cryptocurrency. I would never invest in it. Okay, I would buy it. And this is how I would buy it. This is how I thought about buying it, and I haven't found a practical way to do it yet. This is what I would do. I would pick 5,000 of the absolute lowest tier coins, the lowest costing coins that are worth like 0.00000015 or whatever. I'd put 25 cents into each coin. All I got to do, and I spend $5,000 total or $4,000 total or however much, I can't think of the math. I'd put $1,000 into and spread it across 5,000 different coins. All I need is one of them to go to a penny, and I'm good. And if I lose that, if every single 5,000, because I said there's 10,000 plus, so if half of the market of NFTs goes blank to zero, I lost $1,000. If one busts, I might get like 25,000. But it's all about just, it's not even investing, it's just hedging my bets. Like, hopefully one happens, but I would never put any substantial amount of money into crypto just because it's just not for me.
The example you use right there gives me so much. I can hear my wife talking in my head instantly because she always laughs at me. I do a little bit of sports betting, just more same thing, more for fun, pure gambling, right? I have a personal account that we have every month that we spend, and we can do whatever we want. So I'll do maybe $100 or something on sports betting just for fun. And she always makes fun of me because she's always saying, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, man, my bet lost again. She's like, oh, wait, you did another 15 team parlay. It didn't hit. Who would have guessed? That's exactly it. Right? I'm going in and I'm doing 10, 15 team parlays. I'm thinking, hey, if I put $5 on this parlay and it hits, great. I have probably done hundreds of these. I got one to hit for like $300, and that didn't even cover the amount of money I probably spent over that time. Right. So it's one of those things where exactly you are more hedging your bet and just hoping for that one in a million time that it happens. And that's purely because, like you mentioned, you are not investing. You're simply gambling and hoping that it works out. And that's something you could do when you have discretionary income.
But of course, that's not today. That's when that's going to be, I need at least $1,000 a month of passive income before I even think about doing something so crazy. But
correct.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to have to go through and, make 5,000 different transactions because that'd be quite annoying. But
also, what are the fees on that? You know what I mean? Like, I wonder what the fee to do that many transactions would be.
Yeah. Oh man. I didn't even think about that. Holy cow.
Right. Plus whatever the power grid that you had to use up to buy all those shares. So I just it's I know we're kind of laughing, joking about it. It is obviously a serious thing. There are people who make money off doing it, and there are those individuals, but that's going back to that, that very few percentage. It's not the majority. And understanding that, I hope for those people who do get into it that it does work out for you, because I want people to obviously be successful. I'm always hoping for, especially the little guy to make a little bit of money, but the little guy can progressively increase their net worth on something that we know works and know that's consistent and know that can lead to long-term wealth.
And the exception doesn't make the rule.
No,
it just doesn't. We go with the majority, not the minority when it comes to finance.
Exactly.
But all right, Joey, I really appreciate you coming on this morning, man, having this conversation. It's been great, man. I really enjoyed it. We hit on so many different things, and I hope people actually get value and don't just take our word for it, guys. Do your own research on everything we talked about, right? Like these things are changing every single day. Last night they could have said, you know what, gas prices are done. We're not doing transaction fees anymore, and I would know nothing about it because I just don't follow it. But and these things can always change in the future. So. Correct. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Joey, man, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me as always. Appreciate it, James. Take care.
Yeah, man. And always remember, guys, you're only as secure as your ability to perform. So spend your life accumulating assets that can perform for you. Later, guys.